defeat any threat with Filipino martial arts self-defense tactics. My name is Jason and I teach Filipino martial arts and self-defense. I've been a law enforcement professional for many years, and I teach self-defense and Filipino martial arts security professional for bars and events. I'm going to teach you some very simple techniques on how to defend against the most common kinds of attacks that anyone can use very quickly to defend themselves and feel safe. If you want to learn more, click the link in the description. Let's go on to the lesson. Before we really get into basic techniques for self-defense, we need to talk about maybe not getting into that particular altercation to begin with. We need to talk about the idea of understanding dangerous situations, being preemptive, being aware. What we're talking about is situational awareness. When I was a fugitive retrieval agent, you got into a habit of being hypervigilant during investigations. It can be very, very taxing, but it taught me a lot about being aware of everything around me as I sat surveillance, as I did field investigations, as I made arrests. One of the things that we need to think about is our conditions. Condition white, which is what most people are doing, is you're just not aware. You're not paying attention. You've got ear pods in, or maybe headphones, whatever it is, and you're listening and you're playing games and you're walking, you're sitting at the bus station, you're walking down the street, you're walking in a hallway, whether it's at school, at work, or just in the city or anywhere, you're just not paying attention. Condition yellow is you're alert. You're looking around, you're paying attention. If you're listening to something like music, it's down low, maybe only in one ear, ideally not even that, and you're just kind of looking around, you're paying attention. No particular threat, you're just paying attention. This is the condition that my father taught me to keep my particular situational awareness in. And that is everything from counting the people in the room, understanding where the exits are, having a plan to leave. All of those things are part of that condition yellow situational awareness that some people call this particular level. My dad just said, be aware. Another one that people use is orange. Orange is you've identified a specific threat and now you're trying to execute some kind of plan. That assumes that you thought beforehand what you might do in those situations. This is why in school we have fire drills, why in businesses we have a run, hide, fight protocol for being in dangerous situations, whether at a school or at a work environment. Condition red is you're actually executing something, right? You're actually in active threat. And so situational awareness can prevent you from having to go from yellow to orange or yellow to red by paying attention to your surroundings, understanding what's around you, paying attention to your senses and your gut, and then just going to a safe place, knowing that you have something safe to do. It's better to prevent than to deal with the situation to begin with. So that's something that we do. You can learn how to block, you can learn how to defend against grabs, you can do all of those things. But ultimately, if you can prevent yourself from being in those situations to begin with, just by being aware of your situation as it stands, you'll be better served. All right, for the sake of this video, we're going to cover something that we teach in our ITO Self-Defense 101 course, and that's the slap-down defense. Very simple way to defend against everything. It makes some assumptions. It makes the assumption that you have room. It makes the assumption that you're aware and that you have identified a threat. You're actively between condition orange and condition red, right? So if he attacks me with his right hand high, I'm just going to turn, face it, and slap it down as I move away. If he attacks me with his right hand low, I'm going to turn, face it, slap down. If he attacks me with the right, I'm going to turn, face it, and slap down. And if he attacks me low here, if he attacks me to the gut, I'm just coming through here. And what I'm doing is I'm increasing distance as I do a basic gross motor function defense. This works really good against slow combinations or single attacks. Not so great against multiple strikes. So we're dealing with a particular caliber of offender or attacker or assailant, right? That's different than, say, a boxer who's going to do this. That requires a whole different set of answers. And the reality is that those people are not common, prevalent, or likely to attack you to begin with. And we're trying to hit the lowest common denominator in terms of assault. And most of that's going to be this angle one, right? So this is where we turn and slap down. Very, very simple. Now, what that looks like, Patrick, could you please go get 2 sticks, please? What that looks like for us, and where that comes from in Filipino martial arts, if we use Serrata, is if you feed me an angle 1, right? Excuse me, an angle 1. Angle 2, please. Feed me angle 2. This is this defense here, right? And if you feed me an angle 1, I can switch my hands and I can do it this way. Now that's pretty much just a pushing drill. There's another set of defenses that starts with angle 4, which is just going to be this strike here. So then here is I just hit it down. If you do it on the other hand or with the other side, I just slap down if I go ambidextrously. Likewise, if he's doing it what we call an angle 8, I do it here. If he switches hands, I switch hands, and I come through here and I do it here, right? And then if he feeds me a 9, here, I'll do it this way, and then if he's me on the other side, I just come here and do it this way. That is what we call a punch defense. That is our slap down defense as far as basic self-defense, right? It's a very simple way for us to defend immediately against an opponent that doesn't require a lot of training. So if we place the sticks down, right, he strikes me with the 1, I turn, and I push it all down. My hands are up, I turn, and I push it all down. 3, I push it all down. 4, push it all down. 5, push it all down. 6, push it all down. And that's the basic defense. And then what we would do is we would follow up. So just picking angle 1, right? So if he strikes me here, right, and then I throw 2 punches down the pipe, 1 from either hand. And it doesn't matter what order. We're usually demonstrating jab cross, but just 2 down the pipe is really good. That'll get somebody who doesn't have a lot of fight in them to be a little bit more deterred or reluctant to continue to attack. The other option, which is even simpler, is he attacks me, I go like this, and then I immediately grab him. Now I can grab him this way, but I usually put my forearm in the way, and I just begin doing like a jackhammer, right, motion here, and I just keep driving my hand into their face over and over and over again. It's a good idea in self-defense situations to just yell stop, 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 or something to that effect in order for people to realize that you're trying to defend yourself. That vocal component is very important, right? So I'll do that again here. So I could either grab and then begin doing that jackhammer, or I could throw 2 down the pipe here and then bang, bang. That's really, really simple. The last thing, much more complicated, but also very useful, is as he attacks me and I slap down, I get this to go all the way over to the other side. I turn behind him and then I drag his head backwards. Makes it more difficult for him to continue to attack. I can bring him to the ground, and at that point it's much easier for me to escape, to run away, to remove myself from that situation completely. And that is our basic slapdown defense. The next thing we need to discuss is the grab. These are the 2 things. That first we deal with the strike, then we deal with the grab. Later videos we might deal with grabbing and striking, striking and grabbing, but just right now we're doing basic grab. Now I'm going to demonstrate a few things, and then we're going to have one thing that we actually work on. So he's going to grab me with the wrist. Now he needs his thumb, and he needs the thing he's holding, which is, in this case is my forearm, to be perpendicular to his forearm. So if we're parallel, it makes it really difficult. Now, you may not be strong enough, or you might feel like, oh, I'm not that strong. Can you angle this way, please? Well, if I just stand next to him, it doesn't take a lot of strength. Right? It'll be uncomfortable or even painful as you do that, but it'll be really hard for that person to continue to maintain a grab. You're going to have other problems to deal with, but the grab is gone, right? I can also do it this way. I can also come through here and I can hit there. These are all different ways that are working off the idea that he needs the thumb, he needs this perpendicular, right? And he needs his wrist straight. So I might come through here and just chop at the wrist here, or even punch the wrist and then come through here and I can get out, right? So that's the ideas of it, right, as far as the mechanics are concerned. But we're going to deal with this grab because this is an intimidation attack a lot of times. So if he grabs me, he's not punching me. So I can begin to punch him, I can strike him, I can grab an arm, I can do that. But the easiest thing to do is wipe this off and then begin throwing something down the pipe. That's easy, right? The other thing I could do is I can remove this one. I'm going to remove this one so that's better for the camera here. And then I can begin doing that jackhammer again because a person's grabbed me, right? Likewise, I can push this here and then move this here and then come there. Or again, put your left leg in front. Right? I can move this here and then come back to this position and then I can do my head drag. So there's a basic answers I can do. Now he might turn. Of course he might turn. Throw 2 down the pipe. Do the jackhammer. But if you want to do the head drag, you want to pull them down, that's fine. And all you're doing is grabbing them by the head and pulling it down. What if he's too tall? Well, then you're just throwing 2 down the pipe or you're doing the jackhammer. What if he's too tall for you to do the jackhammer? Go for the groin, right? It's very simple stuff, folks. It's not very complicated as far as self-defense is concerned. If you can articulate that you feel threatened, you're in a position of self-defense, you should obviously consult a legal professional in your area. But generally speaking, if you feel threatened, you can defend yourself in most cases, in most jurisdictions, right? So all I'm doing here is he's grabbing me and I'm removing the grab, right? It could be my throat, but this is the practice that we're working on, is to push this off and throw 2 down the pipe, right? Go again, push this off and come through here. Now, there are other defenses, right? Or grab, excuse me, right? I can, of course, do all these things here where people teach all that stuff here. He can grab me here and I can reach across. I can take the wrist lock, right? He come through here. Filipino martial arts, I might just parry check and then hit. So there's a lot of things that I could do, but I'm just doing something basic for the sake of this video, which is really just about like push it off and then begin your own counterattack because they've already struck you. And that concludes this portion where we're just talking about grab releases. So what we covered in terms of self-defense starts with situational awareness. Be aware of what's going on around you. Understand whether you're in condition white, you're not aware. This is bad. We should never be in condition white unless we feel totally safe, which would be usually at home or with loved ones. And even then, at least I was taught by my father, I'm generally in condition yellow. Condition orange, you're actively identified a threat and you're determining whether you need to do something about that. Condition red, you're actually in the midst of dealing with a threat and executing hopefully a plan that you've laid in place for such possibilities, right? So slap downs for strikes, really, really simple gross motor function. We teach that in self-defense 101 course simply because it's reliable. It's a gross motor function, which means under adrenaline, when we're afraid, when we're angry or whatever, it's a reliable technique to practice and utilize, and it'll help us keep ourselves safe. Grab releases, you just remove the grab. Really simple thing is just to hit it. And even if I don't get fully rid of it, I can still begin to do that jackhammer, which is basically grab the head and then just continue to smash the face as a way to do that until they let go. Or you're gonna throw two down the pipe and you're gonna do some punches until they let go. And then an altercation where you feel like you're able to control yourself a little bit better and you don't feel like you're being assaulted. And then lastly, an ideal one or another answer, which is a little bit more complex, is getting behind them, dragging their head backwards so that they fall, right? That's particularly dangerous. Do that only when you feel like you have the skill and when you're in extreme threat, simply because a person can get really hurt by doing that. But at the same time, your safety is the most important part of what we're trying to address through these videos. I hope that you enjoyed that. Make sure you like, comment, and share. Click that link at the bottom of the video, or at the top of the description, I should say. Make sure that you hit that notification bell. We'll see you on the training floor.